been having a bit of a clean up, and I thought I'd take you guys on a little bit of a tour of some of the things that, with all my uncle's junk and all the old plastic bags and rubbish, you could never see some things. And now that the wind sort of has blown, we've cleaned up, the wind's blown away some of the dirt, the rain's washed away some of the dirt, there's all these things coming to the surface which we never noticed before. I used to find a little bit of coal. I only found 2 bits over 6 months, and today I found, that's the biggest bit yet, I found 3 bits in about 2 minutes. So I'll take you on a little tour of the strange things that are sort of coming up from under the ground, and strange things I've noticed that are basically evidence of, well, the stuff that some of my former relatives have had here. There's a path that goes out the front door. My uncle built half of this, and I sort of made it a little bit wider. But lo and behold, there's a bit of a gap in height difference there. This one just sort of appeared out from the ground, and it's a big line of blooming bricks all along. It's like a path. And then we come here, and there's a bit of bluestone and concrete, more bricks, more concrete, whopping big bluestone piece. I mean, that's from there to there wide. I mean, it's a big bit. And more bricks there. And I reckon, I've closed it off now, but I reckon this was where they actually entered the veranda. And the funny thing is, if we go a few more metres along this way, start with a few more bricks and bits and pieces, and there's actually more of them here under the soil there, and goes along here. Now this one here, I mean, that just looks like a pile of sheets to you guys, but that was actually a shed, and that was the only real standing shed that was still left. But a lot of them, they've left the concrete there still, even though the shed's collapsed. You know, I mean, they never touched it, it was just neglect. And you're not going to believe this, but between little sheds and whatnot, there's probably literally about 8 of them. Some of them are literally underneath boxthorn bushes and that, and you can't really get to them. But yeah, there's just so many of them here, and you don't sort of notice it until you pick up on the concrete and a few flat roof sheets and a bit of chicken wire that, hey, there's another flaming shed or a little chook pen or something that's been here as well. Might be a bit of wind noise now, so you just got to watch a little bit for the wind noise. But this here, sort of front fence and a couple of trees there, he's actually had, well, not my uncle, but they have had, at some point we believe, like a horse pen or a pig pen here, and this is quite amazing. It's been cobblestones. You see there's a rock there, you know, one there. Sort of get down a bit here, and you'll see there's so many rocks just sort of sitting underneath the surface. And basically this whole area, from like that tree, several metres across, there's essentially cobblestones. Stones had all been whacked into each other, you know, side by side to create cobblestones, but then there's been a layer of dirt go over, but sometimes this layer of dirt is literally like only an inch. Or maybe an inch and a half, and a lot of the stones are coming to the surface, but when the grass grows you can actually see the difference. It's got real thin grass where the cobblestones are, and then sort of bang, the grass just goes back to full size again. So yeah, they've had something here as well. Have a look at this. Look, rocks and whatnot, and it just goes on and on and on and on. There's a bit of scrap copper there and a bit of old steel. But there's a big heap of line of rocks going along there, all along there. And, you know, that's one of the lines at the front of the house. I'm out near my solar panels, as you can see. And here's another one that sort of starts over here and continues on. And this one gets real obvious. You see them all popping up there, and it keeps going right around the corner. And there's actually, sitting beside the water tank, there's actually a fence post laying in the grass there. It's like they had some sort of a bit of a rock wall or something that they've sort of made up there. Or just a line of stones to sort of give them a bit of a border around the house. But I'll show you another one, and the one I'll show you next will be amazing. We've been involved in a little bit of weed removal. That stack, it's sort of big. It doesn't look very much until you get up close. I might as well document this anyway. It's quite a tall stack, along with Big Duffer over there. But we've been removing a few of these boxthorn bushes, and we knew there was some sort of a fence along where these trees are planted here. And just a big heap of old rocks. But then we find that when we move all this stuff out of the way, there's a lot of smaller rocks, there's definitive shapes in those rocks. And we never even saw, we could see a second bunch of rocks there, but we never really realised how definite it was until we pulled some of these things out of the way. And yeah, this is basically the entrance, I think, to this area. And like all this is, where I'm standing now is all completely covered in those bushes that you see there. The last few still sitting there. But we found out a little bit more about all this. There's some more. And there we go, along here. And look at this. Great big line of rocks going right up through there. And this is one whole side that's opposite from the side I was on a few seconds ago. And there's only one person who's still alive who's lived here, and her family built it, and they said what it all is was an area to put the sheep and lambs in during the time when the lambs are born, because they're usually born in colder weather. And so they'd stick them in here to stop them dying from wind chill, and just basically, you know, stop them dying from the cold. And they created all this, all the rocks and that, as a bit of a shelter for them to huddle behind to protect themselves from the wind, and in the process sort of may grow a few big trees. The other trees around my house were planted in 1927, and I've got a feeling these trees here were as well, because, well, basically the same kind of tree and they're the same size. But yeah, that's just some of the strange little bits and pieces that sort of appear and that are, you know, like doing archaeology at your own house, except the wind and the rain have been doing it for me. And you sort of notice all these things that you never noticed for the weeds and the rubbish and all the other stuff beforehand.